All right, so let's see. Let us see here. I'll put the class on screen. All right, let's see. Okay. Real Trash asked about storing usernames and displaying a high scoreboard. That's actually something I want to do a separate session on. I think that would be fun. C-Stracken suggests doing a session on all types of data storage, retrieval, web-based, local. I'd say we covered the local here. The only thing we don't have is binary formatter. And as somebody mentioned, that is in the persistent saving and loading data session. I would actually like to come back to binary formatter since we're now kind of revisiting some of this stuff. So maybe we'll try to think of a use for that. C-Stracken, I'm sure there are many, many ways to edit the JSON outside of Unity. That's the cool thing about using JSON is it's a popular open file format that I'm sure, St. Mikey recommends JSON editor online. Corrupt turret. I mean, if I understand your question, the data that I showed you in the notepad is what the data looks like when it's written by the engine. I didn't write that by hand. That's the output from the JSON utility. Hopefully that helps. C-Stracken says, I was away from the video for a couple minutes, so I missed some stuff. I will have to watch again. Was wondering about JSON linking to the class and making sure the JSON text and the class match. Basically, it's probably worth looking at the docs for this. So if you have fields that don't match, so here's a JSON utility docs, pretty simple, from JSON. So create an object from its JSON representation. Internally, this method uses a Unity serializer. Therefore, the type you're creating must be supported by the serializer. It must be a plain class or struct marked with the serializable attribute. Fields of the object must have types supported by the serializer. Fields that have unsupported types, as well as private fields or fields marked with the non-serialized attribute, will be ignored, right? So basically, if you, let's say they didn't match, I would say those would be considered under this, right? So if you had a bunch of fields that weren't on the class, they would just get ignored. So I don't think anything bad would happen, but just that data would not be loaded. And then if the JSON representation is missing any fields, they'll be given their default values. So in this case, it's not going to be given any value specified as a field initializer, as the constructor for the object is not executed during deserialization, meaning an int is going to be 0. It doesn't matter if you say int I equals 1, it's still going to be 0, right? Because that's the default for an int. Some people asking about synchronous. The versions of this method that take strings can be called from background threads. The versions that take a text asset must be called from the main thread. Hopefully that helps. If a big class, is there an easy way to create the template JSON file? Maybe just write all from class? I don't understand. You don't need to create a template JSON file. Like I never sat down and typed up this JSON file. If I start, let me just show you. If I start with no data, right? Streaming assets folder is empty. And I go to my game data editor and load data, it's now created an empty all round or game data object, which has this empty all round data array. If I add a round, we'll say this is our dummy round. The time limit is 20. Points are 5. There's one question, and the question is, whoops. Well, it doesn't matter. Is this a dummy round? well, typing skills, is this a dummy round? And the answer, there's only one answer, and that answer is yes, and it's correct, right? So no JSON file existing, right? Hit save, and now is this a dummy round? Yes, it is. The round is over, right? Why I can't see? It's most definitely there. Yeah, it's there. I don't know what this. Oh, it just needs to refresh. There we go. It's there. So here's my JSON, right? All round data contains one entry: the name, dummy round, time limit, points, number of questions. There's only one question, which is a dummy round, and that does the formatting for the JSON for me, right? I don't need to sit down here and type any of this. It just takes whatever data we have and serializes it as JSON. Hopefully that helps. Real Trash says, would be cool to save the player's vector 2 or vector 3 position, save out to JSON to plot the player's position on a 2D map on some web interface. Yeah, I mean, I can think of lots of fun stuff to do with this because, yeah, you could take that JSON data and read it out in a web application, you know, do whatever you want with it, put it in a database. Lots of fun times possible. All right, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go off mic and I will keep the chat window open. If you guys have any last questions, toss them in there and I will answer via text. Thanks again to everybody for joining and see you in 2 weeks. Bye.